What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and I'm continuing my journey through Bruce Springsteen's discography by ranking every single song from worst to best on Darkness on the Edge of Town, Bruce's fourth studio album. If you haven't checked out any of the other ones, they're in a playlist below, as well as a lot of other Springsteen stuff on a separate Bruce Springsteen playlist. We've actually done a full review of this, me and Trey, of this album, but check those out below, and I'll continue this till I get through his whole discography, and then I'll rank his albums in order and rank his top 100 songs for you. So it's going to be a long journey, but thank you for tuning in. And this album came out in June of 1978. It's number 91 on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time. They actually recorded 70 songs, finishing 52 of them during this time. Only 10 are on the album. They also recorded them as a full band, whereas Born to Run, there's a lot of segmented stuff put in. There's an awesome documentary about the making of this. I don't know why cameras were following Bruce around in 78. But if you can watch that and you get your hands on it, it's on a TV channel called Access TV that I have here in the States on my satellite. But if you can get your hands on it, it came out in 2010. It is absolutely unbelievable. So check that. I'll give you some insight into it. I'll give you some quick insight into the album. I'll go watch the review to get it all. But Bruce hadn't recorded in 3 years, and I think that's why this album, my theory, why this album is so good, because he had all these songs written and to pare it down to get, 10. You could do that pretty easily and just get an absolute masterpiece of an album, which I think this is. So, he hadn't recorded in 3 years because he got into it with his former manager over publishing rights, Mike Apple. Like I said, another story I won't get into here because you're here for the song rankings. So let's do it. So at number 10, we have Candy's Room. Musicianship on here is top notch, a bunch of tempo changes. This song really grows on you. The guitar work and the drumming is fantastic. Bruce's vocals are pretty good, but on an album like this, it's going to come in at number 10. Number 9, Adam raised a cane. Great biblical imagery on here. A loose interpretation of Bruce and his difficult relationship with his father. He said, quote, "Our actual relationship was probably more complicated than how I presented it. These songs were ways that I spoke to my father at the time because he didn't speak and we didn't talk very much." So, he called it emotionally autobiographical. Very strong vocals on this one. Great musicianship on this whole album. It's so well produced, and if you watch the documentary, you'll see why. Because Bruce was an absolute fanatic in the recording studio. Next up, we got "Prove It All Night." It was the first single. It went to 33. I could have chose a lot better songs, obviously, since I got this at number 8 for singles. But Clarence's sax solo on here is unreal, and Bruce's guitar solo is also fantastic. I think on it for me, Danny Federici's organ is just a bit overdone. Not his fault. It's a little bit too much for me in the mix. I mean, I got to really split hairs on this album because there's a lot of great songs. Next up, we got Factory, which is only 2 minutes and 20 seconds long. It's about Bruce's dad going to the factory, how difficult that job is, how it affects the whole family's life. Now, I'm going to throw a shout out to Danny on this one because his organ works so well. And Max Weinberg on drumming is a real star throughout this album. He really, really stands out. And this song is one of those examples. You got a nice harmony in here. I think many people would have this closer to the bottom, but I just think it works, and it's a nice change of pace on this album. Next up, we got Streets of Fire, which I like the arrangement of this song, right? It starts out where Bruce is kind of mixed far away, and then when the chorus comes in, it's just rollicking, right? The instrumentation pumps up, his voice pumps in, so I just think it's so good, and the guitar solo on here is fantastic. The song itself is "Somebody Wronged You, Man," and he's not standing for it. But I think on that note, Bruce is a very, very underrated guitar player, and that is fantastic on this. Now we're to the top half of the rankings. Number 5, I got "Something in the Night," which is a ballad. Bruce sounds great. You really feel the emotion in his voice. And Roy Baton's piano on this is great. He's such a great piano player, and on this whole album, it's so good. So it's basically Roy and Max on the drums kind of carrying this thing. And then towards the end of the song, Roy is out of it. It's just Max and the drumming and Bruce, and then it kind of goes quiet, and then Bruce has this wailing that comes through, and Max comes back in and builds it out. It's just such a well-arranged song. All right, now we're to the top 4, and I mean, it gets real tough up here. The top 2 for me were clear, but then it's really tough in here, man. This album's great. This album's so underrated. So number 4, I got "The Promised Land," and this song came about back in 1977. Little Stevie Van Zandt, and Eric Miola, who did the cover of "Born to Run," they went with Bruce and they went to this trip through Nevada and Utah, and he wrote this song afterwards. Like, he came to the studio a month later and he'd written it about that. And it's just talking about he's going through these problems, but he's ready to address them. Got a great line in there, Mr. I ain't a boy, I am a man, and I believe in the promised land. And you just feel it, man. The instrumentation here is fantastic. Clarence's solo is on another level. Max plays off it so well. You even got Bruce coming in that solo with some harmonica in there, throwing it back a little bit to the Born to Run album. And Bruce said this song was about how we honor the community and where we came from. But also he said he felt a personal tie to the song because it's kind of a little bit autobiographical. The lawsuit I mentioned at the start that he's going through with Mike Apple, his former manager, he felt this was kind of his outlet. And on this song, he said he used it a lot for that, but the struggles and the frustration he felt. Next up at number 3, the second single, only went to 42 in the US. Come on, US, what are we doing? We got Badlands. Just a fantastic song. Rolling Stone actually ranks this as the second greatest Bruce song. I don't think it's that high, but it's high. Max's drumming on this is absolutely fantastic. And Bruce is just telling the story of a guy who is down on his luck and angry, but wants a better lot in life. When they come in with that chorus, that Badlands, it's kind of just shouting it. It is so good. Well, to my top 2, and I think most of you watch this, if you're Springsteen fans, would probably flip these two. I think that my number 2, at least you have as number 1. You may reorder some of my other stuff as well, which I get. I got Racing in the Street. It ends the first side. It's almost 7 minutes long, and it's absolute genius. A lot of commentators have called this his best song. Spent roughly 15 days on this song alone, right? And in the recording studio. They recorded for 9 days, and they shelved it for like 5 months, and then went back to it. So it's crazy. Where Bruce highlights, how men want kind of freedom from responsibility. And he highlights that and uses kind of the car motif, the driving a fast car, racing, all that stuff to get out of town. So this kind of ties into that. But it's got some absolutely great lines. I mean, the story is, they built a hot rod, him and his buddy Sonny, and after work they go race it all the time. They're racing in the street. But one of the great lines, some guys, they just give up living and start dying little by little, piece by piece. Some guys come home from work and wash up, then go racing in the street. And that's Bruce and Sonny. The piano on this song is next level. These top 2 songs for Roy Baton is on another plane in these things. Bruce's voice is incredible on this, and the coda is so good. A lot of these songs have long build-ups, long introductions, and long codas or outros, whatever you want to call it. And some people I know aren't into that. I'm not always into that. On this album, it works so good. So at least it's one song, and it is the title song, Darkness on the Edge of Town. And I'm going to rank all the songs when I'm done with this, but this might be my favorite Bruce song. If it's not, it's top 5, and that's saying something. A lot of people see it as a continuation of Racing in the Street, right? Racing in the Street finished off side 1, and this finishes off the album on side 2 back in the old vinyl days. Bruce was really big in Born to Run and big on this album on 4 corners, which just means your intro, your first track and your last track on each side kind of mesh up with each other, So I think they kind of tied them in together. Writing is fantastic, and the piano, like I said, is just next level. It's got a minute plus coda on the end. Verse 2 and verse 3, I'm just going to read them to you because it gives you an example of the songwriter on here. Well, everybody's got a secret sound, something that they just can't face. Some folks spend their whole lives trying to keep it. They carry it with them every step that they take. Verse 3, some folks are born into a good life, and other folks get it anyway, anyhow. Well, then I lost my money and I lost my wife. Them things don't seem to matter much to me now. And then he just gets into that wailing. There's a darkness. And darkness on the edge of town, who knows what it means, right? There's a darkness on the edge of town where they're going racing. And, maybe there's some shady stuff going on. But there's also darkness inside of you. And I think it means both things. So that's going to finish off my rankings for Darkness on the Edge of Town. A fantastic album. And I think the most underrated album in Bruce's catalog, with Tunnel of Love all the way up in 1987. Also incredibly underrated album. But this album's greatness, man. I'm not going to give away where I'm going to rank it in the discography rankings, but most people think like Born to Run's up here, and then Darkness is, it's close. It's real close. So let me know what you think of these rankings. What do you think I got right? What do you think I got wrong? I could take it, guys, man. Bruce is my all-time favorite solo artist. You see him over my shoulder here. He's the man. I'm going to see him in concert in about 5 weeks, and I'm counting it down. But let me know what you thought is. Give it a thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button. And if you like to support us anyway, check out the Patreon page, guys. It makes these videos possible. We record stuff every single day. Until next time, guys, I will see you.